Oh, there we go.
There we go. Good.
Looks like we're live now.
Sorry about that.
Mine still says off air, so what? Oh, no, it says live. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so for this week, our prompt is what qualities make a good leader? What qualities make a poor leader? And in discussing, please consider material from the text and lectures as well as personal experiences and mediated or television examples. So that's kind of our jump off point, I guess.
Okay, let's do introductions first because it says to make sure everyone says that they're here. I'm Nick Striffler. I'm here in this, so.
And I am Jonathan Lazarus.
I'm Bobby.
Jessica Laidlaw.
Michael Anderson.
Okay, cool. Everyone's here. Did anybody have anywhere they wanted to start?
We can just start with the discussion prompts, and one of the things that I think makes a good leader is somebody that tends to listen more than they speak, and like kind of empower their team to like work to, or cater to the strengths of their team more or less, and bring out the best in people rather than just. I think our book talks about the what is it? I'll pull up the page here. I always go back to communication being circular, not linear. I think that's a really awesome way to look at it, rather than it talks about the action model of communication, where it's one person talking and one person that's receiving the message. But communication takes more than one person, so a leader that can facilitate that is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's important to listen to what your team members need in order to lead. That should be that shouldn't need said, but I mean, I'm sure we've all had managers that definitely needed to know that. One term I think the book uses for this is rigid. So if they're not willing to listen or collaborate or seek help when they need it, then I don't think you could be an effective leader. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I was going to say kind of the opposite of that was they need to be flexible. I know that there's a lot of there's a lot of different theories presented in the book in terms of different ways you can go about being a leader. But I think a good leader is able to kind of adapt between multiple styles of doing it depending on the situation, depending on those that they're actually leading, whether you're talking like the authoritarian, democratic, laissez-faire. I don't think you can, to be effective, I don't think you can just have like one style that's just your style. I think you have to be willing to adapt to the situation.
I agree.
Well, and also adapting to each employee that you have.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the same style as what you are or what other employees are. Being able to adapt to them as well. That's just your situation too.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of people do just like that straight manager style too. I was a bank teller for a year, and I worked with someone who the manager wasn't really like that, but she was so set in her ways that when there are steps to do something, and if she missed one of the steps, it really confused her. She was great at the job, but she had to go through all those steps in that exact order, and that's how she did things. So I think that's a good example of someone who had won an authoritarian leader. No options. This is just how it's done. And it really worked for her. She was great.
And, a good leader should have a vision, though, either what you're going to accomplish or where you're going or what you want to do. And then you put it before the team and say, hey, listen, how can we get there? And give them that opportunity to exercise followership so they can insert themselves and say, hey, boss, you know what? You want to get here, and I think I got a great idea to get us there. And show that motivation and drive and really let people kind of grow and be involved.
That's incredibly empowering for people too. I think people are more apt to follow somebody that they want to follow or that they feel is a good leader, rather than out of obligation or just simply because of a title or something. I'm sure we've all had bosses or leaders where that it's really more of a boss than a leader, and we do to just to get by. But if there's somebody that we're following, we want to go above and beyond to make them look good, to make our team look good, to do our best for them, not just do the bare minimum.
There's a quote in chapter 1 of our book, and it says, "You manage things, not people." So that's also something to keep in mind, I guess, when you're a manager or a leader, is you manage things, you lead people.
And you get those leaders that will come into a meeting and, instead of saying, hey, this is our problem, what are we going to do? They lay out their point of view right at the front end. And then they're like, okay, does anybody have any feedback? And go around the room and everybody's like, well, you just said what you want to do. So what's the point of me even saying anything at all?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to be genuine, because it does say in the book, it gives us leadership is about who you are, how you act, and what you do. And I think people can detect if someone's, if you ask someone their opinion as a leader or manager, and then you don't care what they say. I mean, people will see through that.
Yeah, quickly.
And, the flip side, you also have to be willing. At the end of the day, the buck has to stop somewhere. And you can give everybody their opening and talk and go around the room, and eventually you get to a point where all you're doing is talking, and you as a leader have to actually be willing to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and make that call eventually and pull out of that and just say, this is where we're going, let's knock it out. So
Yeah,
and it goes back to that flexibility and lack of rigidity.
I think it's a balancing act for sure. And the book talks about being an ineffective leader, and one of the terms is incompetent. You definitely have to have the skills necessary to do the job, to lead the job. I mean, in most cases. So, yeah, the leader definitely has to know how to do it and have a good idea of how it's going to get done, even if they're open to feedback. There still has to be some sort of expertise on their end.
Yeah.
I listened to a TED Talk a little while ago, and the guy was putting forth, it was Simon Sinek, and he was talking about how right now, if you look at our societies, we've become so subdivided and specialized in our roles. We're promoting technical specialists. So the bank teller, she was really, really good at being a teller, so they promoted her to a supervisor, not because she was a leader, but because she was a really, really good teller. And now she's in that leadership role, and she's now like, well, I'm a better teller than everybody else that's working for me. And instead of leading them and pulling together and teaching and being a leader and communicating, she's basically saying, well, I'll do this because I'm better than you are. And that's, I think, a challenge we have as a society right now, because we're so specialized, is making that shift away from just being a specialist.
Yeah, and that's actually a situation I'm in right now, because I'm actually a manager in IT operations, and I just took over an advanced support team. Mm-hmm. So the engineers that I have on my team now are all light years more technically superior to me. But I have the management and leadership background to kind of take the team and guide the team. So I'm in a situation where obviously I know enough that I can be competent and explain and be able to make the decisions and keep the team guided, but I'm really depending on them to come to me with a lot of the solutions, and relying on them to kind of drive the direction in a large way.
Well, that's definitely a balancing we talked about earlier too. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but that show, The IT Crowd, they bring in a manager to, it's some British show. I didn't really like it, but it's popular on the internet. I don't know. But they bring in some manager to manage IT, and she has no idea. She doesn't even know what it stands for.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of funny too how the book, I never even thought about it this way, but the book mentions how a lot of times selfish people end up in leadership positions because they're the ones, they're seen as extroverts, they're outgoing, and they're the ones that are going to go after what they want. So they're naturally impulsive, and what does it say? Yeah, because they're selfish, or because they're impulsive and selfish individuals, they're more likely to seek positions of power, and more likely to be identified as leaders, because they seem charming and charismatic, but then once they get into that role, the less desirable qualities must shine through because, you know, then they're more narcissistic or what have you. And then people see those qualities over and above the charming, charismatic, qualified leader that they thought they hired.
Yep.
So, okay, that is a good segue into what makes for a poor leader.
I think lack of experience can be a poor leader. I had a manager who he has no idea what we do out in the field, and he has never been on an ambulance before, but all of a sudden he's in this manager position and he doesn't even know what we're doing. He doesn't even know how to do what we're doing out there. So I know that was extremely frustrating.
Yep. Yeah, the book does say incompetent. I mean, you have to be able to do the job to, not necessarily on that level, but you definitely have to be able to lead. And that definitely makes you an ineffective leader, for sure. The book, it was two Harvard professors, I think. They said the two things that make leaders make bad leaders is being ineffective or unethical. So I think that's two good examples of that. Obviously, you don't want someone in charge that's unethical.
Yeah.
That happen a lot.
But I also think there's a tendency to somebody gets in a leadership role, they feel like they have to know it all. They feel like they have to be the source, they have to be in charge, they have to tell people that, you know, everything's going to be good. And in that, they don't want to talk to, like Jessica, because she's on the ground, she knows what's going on in the ambulance every day. And they don't want to take the time to ask her or get that feedback. And they're just saying, well, this is the way it's going to be, and I'm in charge, and so I have to act like I know what's going on, and I have to do it. And I think you kind of get in that trap sometimes if you're not careful and not willing to actually take criticism and just be open to ideas and open-minded so that you can get that feedback flowing so you know what's actually going on.
Yeah, and that ties in with selfishness and the leader wanting the accomplishments and everything to go through them instead of just leading the group. I mean, if you're an effective leader and you're doing everything well, I don't think you need to try to prove yourself anymore. That's my opinion of it. You don't need to spotlight yourself anymore. If your group's running well, then your group's running well.
Yeah, I think an effective or a good leader lets the kind of the performance of the team speak for itself when it comes to their own performance. Whereas somebody be considered a poor leader, they kind of seek out to have that, I guess, accolations or whatever kind of on them individually versus what their actual team has done.
All right, so let's see, we covered those. Were those the only two prompts?
Pretty much, yeah.
There was some, I'm trying to find the page where I saw it. I thought it was really interesting, and it was actually what I was going to talk about in one of the discussion posts. Where is it? Oh gosh, I can't find it now. Oh, it said something about, I think it's on page 31, how from a communication standpoint, leaders are made, not born. So that's going to be one of my discussion posts. So actually, I'll just feed off of you guys and see what you guys think. What do you think about that? Do you think that leaders are born or made, or is it some combination?
I think they're natural leaders, but it's definitely something that can be learned. I mean, there's a reason, I don't know what all of your majors are, but this is like my 4th comms class that's talked about leadership in some way.
Yeah, I think that there are certain kind of born characteristics that make people more naturally suited or more apt for leadership. But I think that with the right mindset, essentially anybody can learn to be an effective leader. It just may take more work for some than others.
Well, like earlier, talking about the characteristics of somebody that would, like being extroverted and outgoing and charming and charismatic and things that we might see as leadership qualities. The book put it in a light that, maybe it's not so great all the time because those people tend to be more narcissistic or what have you. So I guess that lends itself back to the question of what qualities, or is too much of a good quality maybe a bad thing in a leader, or and with as much focus as we put on leadership now in our society and different degree programs, seems to be that there's a big need for leadership rather than bosses, I guess is the only other word I can think of.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't have to be a boss to be a leader. You can still be a leader within your scope of your practice and everything you do. You don't have to be in that manager position in order to be the leader.
Yeah, more of an informal leadership role or something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think we touched on anything like that. But it is possible to lead by doing, for sure.
Well, and I think that goes back to followership, and it's something, I'm in the Coast Guard, and it's something we focus on there is, the junior guy can be a leader and lead up, and by being driven, motivated, looking for solutions, and actually doing stuff and bringing things up for the leader to make decisions on or move forward on, you can actually fill gaps if you're motivated and you're interested in that. And so, yeah, you can definitely lead up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think those were some great points. Is there anything anybody else wanted to touch on, or? I think that was a good meeting, though.
Yeah, thank you for starting the YouTube live too. I was a little nervous about that one because I've never used it.
Nick, I believe you have to start it through Google Hangouts, right? Is that how it starts?
No, you actually go to YouTube first. I thought I could link the YouTube live to the Hangout you already had going, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I think it's been over a year since I've done it, so I couldn't quite remember, but.
Okay. So what we'll do is just nominate somebody to go over, get it set up on the text line, and then pull everybody in each time. Easy enough.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's real easy. It just gives you the link, and then you throw it in that Hangouts. We already have one labeled Comm 430. Just put the link in there, and then everybody will be good.
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So then next Sunday, 9 o'clock, right? I think from here on, we're 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm time zone ignorant since I'm in
9 o'clock Arizona time.
Yeah, Arizona time. Okay. So 9 o'clock for the rest of the time, unless we have something that needs to change.
Sounds
And
good.
who's our East Coaster?
I am.
I'm East Coast.
Well, thank you for being flexible with all of us West Siders.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
You too.
Talk next week.
Yep.
Bye, guys.